Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook Big Bash podcast out of Supercoach BBL Round 9, the final round of the Supercoach season. Proudly brought to you, as always, by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams, and I'll tell you what, if I was out there and I was sitting first overall in Supercoach or second or third or whatever it might be, and I was looking at the forecast for this round with the Sydney Sixers on the double, both games with potential to be washed out, obviously watch this space, I would be spitting chips because it is going to be one of the hardest final rounds of the season we've seen in a long, long time. Here to dissect that with me, as always, Cricket Australia commentator Max Bryden. Maximus, how are you?
G'day, Timothy, mate. I'm doing well. Thankfully, I don't have that kind of predicament back in 8,000th. Absolutely my worst Big Bash season, and it's not even close. I thought missing out on the top 1K last year sucked, but this year sucked. But, man, apart from that, it's actually allowing me to sleep better at night. I called it early last night, went to bed thinking, all right, so if the Sixers beat the Thunder, then they're locked into finals because the Heat, they're going to get smashed here by the Hurricanes, only to wake up and see that Zaman Khan had transformed halfway through that match from one of the worst imports that we have ever seen to like a Mitchell Starc 2015 World Cup level death bowler. So that was wild. So a bit tense because I'm now just on the cricket results, basically, not the Supercoach results.
It's incredible the sort of what your rank does to your emotions and your sleep patterns and all that as well.
It's been awesome. It's been so good.
I dropped just below 2,000 last round, and this round been a bit of a mixed bag, but I'm like, if I was top 100 or, even top 200-300 sort of thing, and you're chasing the big finish in the high rank, you're like, you're so nervous, you need to watch every ball. But in this spot, I'm like, if I drop 500, I go up 500. Not too much changes in the big picture, aside from a little bit of pride. It's quite nice in that sense. Also with us today, former Supercoach BBL champion Thommo Aitken. Thommo, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, fellas. Yeah, that Heat result really came out of nowhere. Not the greatest result for any of us Sixers fans, but we'll move past that. And we've come to the last round, and it's gone full circle. We started with some rain and some Sixers and some uncertainty, and it's come there again, and it's probably even there times 3 or 4. So, yeah, interesting last round ahead of us.
We are recording with one game to go in round 8. I will be back tomorrow with my solo pod for the updated stuff there. Maxi, how's your side travelling so far in round 8 with a game to play?
Yeah, it's been okay. I went a little bit light on Renegades. I grabbed 3 this round. I was not going to grab any because I think off the back of how poor the double was the week before with the rain impacts and just, again, how bad Adelaide are in general, I was very ready to spit the dummy and just get a few rogue blokes in for single game weeks. But picked up Hassan Khan, VC'd him, so that was nice. And I had Tom Curran and Marcus Stoinis. I think most people have still got Stoinis. Curran's ownership, I'm not sure, but that's kind of papered over a few cracks so far.
Yeah. What about yourself, Thommo?
Yeah, it'll come down to the last game to see how we go. I'm looking at my bench loops, and I had a 17, a 13, and a 6 to choose from. So when your top score on the bench loop is 17, you're not going to go so well. But yeah, Zampa was brought in; he was okay. Brought in Fraser McGuirk, who was very involved in the field. I thought batted quite well. Like, often you can dismiss him for giving away his wicket, but he got about Wes Agar's only decent ball of the summer, and apart from that, he's looking good. So I don't mind him as a trade-in. Chief, VC, it's only average, so might keep it on him, might chuck it on a Perth guy. But yeah, it'll come down to the last round where hopefully a few of the guys perform for me.
Yeah, very nice, mate. For the Cooma Stallions thus far. So what do we got? Ben McDermott, 104. Jamie Overton, 83. Nathan Ellis, 53. Mitch Swepson, 97. No, wait, they're the blokes I traded out this week. Yeah. So as has been par for the season, just not quite happening for the Stals in BBL 15. We're going okay, but we're just meandering and nothing more at this stage. A few better plays in there. Xavier Bartlett got hit from pillar to post in his first 3 overs, then came out and took a few wickets in that second last over of that game last night. Outstanding saved a bit of bacon there with 91 points. Big Stoyan held on to him as most would have. As you said, Max if he's 117. So some decent scores in there. I also have the VC loop on Hassan Khan. So 61 to start for him with a game to play, needing him to not come good, to double that tonight in the final fixture of the round. So going okay, but a bit like you, Thommo, my loops, I had Chris Jordan 16, Glenn Maxwell 13. So I didn't have to play Maxi, but I had to take the 16 from Jordan. I'm like, tough going. Anyway, guys, as I said, it is our final show of the Supercoach BBL season as a team. That is, I'll be back with my solo podcast tomorrow morning once lockout finishes and we get all the updated information, weather report as well, a few different things to touch on there, and of course the listener questions for the final round of the season. But on today's show, the double game week analysis of the Sydney Sixers, we're going to drop our final round Hail Mary, the top scoring player, with a focus on those single game week teams after speaking, of course, about the Sixers. And then we're going to recap the season that was, having a look at a few things that we've taken from the campaign, what we've learned this season so far. Then we'll wrap it up by dropping some trade and skipper plans for round 9. Let's start with the double game week analysis, though. Round 9, the Sydney Sixers are on the double. The Hobart Hurricanes are on the bye. The Sydney Thunder is their first clash for the Sixers at the Sydney Cricket Ground. There's 7 millimetres of rain and the chance of a thunderstorm. The second game of the double, the Brisbane Heat at the Gabba, 0 to 15 millimetres of rain predicted there and the chance of a thunderstorm. There's a genuine chance that both games get washed out. Like, the forecasts are pretty bad. Not diabolical, but bad enough. As always, guys, watch for the updated information, but there's a lot of rain coming for the Sydney region over the next 3-4 days. So, and Brisbane doesn't look much better on, I think it's the Sunday, that game as well. So keep an eye out for it. I suppose first thing, I'll start with you, Maxi, but if the wet weather does look likely to impact the first game of the round, I think it's probably a little dangerous to plan too far ahead in terms of Sunday being sort of 3 days away for at this stage. If the first game looks like it's going to be heavily impacted, I know you've got a lot of Sixers already, but I suppose for those out there that are carrying 2 to 3 Sixers in their team, what's the plan? Do you sort of bite the bullet and hope that they get enough action in, or do you look elsewhere and go to single game week players?
Yeah, mate. You said carrying a few Sixers. If I look at my bench, it's completely magenta. I got 5 of them, including Stephen Peter Devereaux Smith, who was my Hail Mary last round before the last rain game in Sydney. But I think the only good thing in this instance is that they play game 1. So you do have that flexibility right up until 7:15 on Friday night in order to make that decision. The thing for me that would be a reason to keep them would be if the Sixers win the toss and bowl, because you've seen the SCG this season. I mean, as good as it was for the test match, the word around the camp has been that the SCG pitch for all of the Big Bash games has been the worst it's ever been. And the players were actually pleading with the ground staff during that rain delay at Hobart when it cleared for a few times to keep the covers on because they were scared of going out there and batting. They thought it was very, very unmanageable. There was one that reared up at Steve Smith and hit him on the gloves as well, which is when you're doing that to one of the greatest to ever do it, it's a stinker, right? So if they go out there with the ball and it looks like they're going to bowl first and get in most of it innings, you can expect a lot of wickets to fall. Doesn't really help if you're carrying the likes of Philippi or Steve Smith like I am. But that would be the only instance in which I'd be willing to keep Sixers, particularly because we're just not going to know about that last game either. So I dare say that there's a good chance with this current forecast that my 3 trade outs are likely to be 3 of the boys in magenta.
Wow. There you go. So, I mean, obviously, guys, just keep a close eye on it. Thommo, what about yourself, mate? Flexibility is the key. We watch for updated forecasts. We watch the coverage leading in to the lockout coming in to play for that fixture. But how are you approaching it?
Yeah, you got to stay flexible. I'll probably make 2 sets of plans. One, with the Sixers, on paper they're on the double, so you're like, well, I want to try and maximise that. But then I'll also plan for games where there'll be limited, if not any action. I'll turn my attention to the Saturday lots of games where it's hot, they'll get action. A bit like Maxi, I've already got a few Sixers, so I've kind of got my ones there. I might try and diversify my squad and see if I can get some advantages there. Yeah, you just got to stay flexible because who knows up until that Friday. And that's why, Timmy, when you release the solo updated podcast, it'll have some good information for everyone because, yeah, we've just got to stay flexible because no one really knows.
Yeah, absolutely there. So I'm just looking, but yeah, the Adelaide fixture against the Renegades in Adelaide on Saturday, it is all clear. And then Perth, that fixture there on the Saturday as well, just getting out the forecast, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Perth is dry for that one. 25 degrees, a bit of cloud, but no rain. So, yeah, look, if the rain does look to come and we're going to target other games, it'll be those two middle games of the round. Maxi, bit of movement at the Sydney Sixers. Hopefully all goes to plan. There's no rain. We get two full fixtures in. We go hard at them. Sammy Curran, obviously the big in for the second game of their most recent game, I should say. Mitch Starc is likely to come in at some stage as well. What sort of 17 are we playing around with? 17. I've gone into rugby league mode already. I wouldn't be doing that if I was top 10, I'll tell you that much. What's the 11 looking like?
I think the good news that we've had forecasted just before this round is that Sam Curran is available for both games of the double, which is really nice because I think originally it was going to be just the first. And Mitchell Starc's been telegraphed as an inclusion now with press conferences and hype reels. Shout out to the Sydney Sixers social media team for some absolute art that they published yesterday with that quote from Steve Smith that it feels right. So they're kind of the big ins. I'm expecting one of the spinners to come out. So they've been running with Ben Menenti and Joel Davies. And I do think that big bad Ben Menenti is probably going to make way for Mitchell Starc. Joel Davies will be the single spinner in that lineup. Jack Edwards will bat down at number 7. And Lockie Shaw will be playing in front of Jordan Silk in the middle order. So pretty straightforward. It'll be the same 11 as they came out with the Hobart Hurricanes. A super good looking 11, just with Starkey coming in for Ben Menenti.
How's your 11 when you're dropping like a Jordan Silk? Like he's one of the better middle order bats in the competition. I know probably more so of yesteryear, but he still shows plenty, Jordan Silk, and that is an unbelievable 11. I suppose, Thommo, around the sort of the 11 that Maxi's spoken about there, do we see any major impacts to role? We know there are so many great players with great roles like Davies, like Edwards in this Sixers lineup. Who are the ones that we think will benefit or, their role will deteriorate as a result?
Yeah, sure thing. I think also just tactically, if Silky is not in the starting 11, I reckon he'll get plenty of time in the field, one would imagine. Look, I think Curran, to me, looks the most likely to bat, if they get on the field, to bat and bowl. They seem to want to use him. He didn't bowl great against the Stars, but I think he's the most likely to get the bat and bowl, so I like his role. Davies, if he becomes the only spinner, I mean, that's great for his prospect of getting the full overs in. He's batting very well. They've moved him up the order at different times, so I like him. In terms of who goes down, it probably is Jack Edwards. I mean, will get lots of overs in. But in terms of performing with the bat, off the top of my mind, I think round 1 against Perth, apart from that, I can't think of where he's actually performed with the bat. So I think he's more as a bowler there. Dorcius, they still might move up with the ability to pinch hit and do some left and right. So I think it's Edwards that goes down. I think Curran and Davies, in terms of getting themselves involved, I like them with their job prospects. Maxi, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, man, I think you've absolutely nailed it. The big one that's probably less obvious is just going to be a new death bowler. So predominantly all of the surge and death overs have been bowled by Jack Edwards and Sean Abbott when he came back this year, which has freed up Ben Dorcius to occasionally bowl a little bit of death. But when you got big Mitchell Starc, Big Kratzy's going to come in and take plenty of the tough ones, you'd have to think. So it's really just going to come down to who they think is the best complement of that. I expect Dorcius to become a little bit more of that middle overs bowler, which when the pressure's been off a little bit, it's sort of helped him. We saw him clean up in that Brisbane game when he was essentially bowling to the tail at different stages. But I think it's probably going to be Sean Abbott and Mitchell Starc who bowl the tough overs. So Jack Edwards, I'd expect for him to bowl up front the power play just because he's a good first class bowler. He can bowl those tough lengths and move it a little bit. But I do think he might lose some of his surge bowling.
Yeah, big movements out the Sydney Sixers, so keep an eye out for all of that and the potential team changes coming in. But there are still some really, really good roles. I think you're right, boys. Jack Edwards is the one between Starc, Abbott, Dorcius. As you mentioned, if Joel Davies is the sole spinner, he's probably getting his 4 at the SCG. Sam Curran, I don't know if there's 4 overs there for Jack Edwards, so could be 2, could be 3. Maybe he does get his 4, but there's just so much quality there. I'll put you on the spot a little bit here, boys. I think rather than going through player by player, in the sense that because the Sixers have only just come off a relatively recent double, most super coaches out there are probably pretty well stacked up with Sixers trades already. I'll start with you, Maxie, but I'm just wanting basically a top sort of 3 to 4 trade targets, and we take into consideration things like job security to play the double, I suppose to a less degree the rain impact and roles, etc., but price that comes into consideration as well. So someone like Sam Curran is pretty well priced, but let's say clean slate, you don't own any Sixers players, give me a top 3 in order, very much under the pump. I didn't put this on the pod plan as such, but who would be the first 3 that you'd be looking to pick if you didn't own any Sixers this week?
Mitchell Starc, because at $175,000, he's going to be difficult for a lot of people to get in this week, particularly if their plan is to jump off the Renegades assets because they're just not at that same price.
Risk of him not getting the double though?
I mean, playing both games?
Yeah.
No, he's playing both games.
Okay.
It's 4 overs. Like Mitchell Starc will play both games. That's fine.
All right.
And finals too. And again, this is, I think you have to take a punt on him. His class is just so far above what they've been used to facing. If I had to guess what will happen, if just say they play full game tomorrow, Starkey will come out. His first over might look a little bit different, and people will be going like, "Oh, geez, like what's going on?" But overs like 2 to 4, there'll be a lot of wickets. Like he's just going to be too good, particularly against Sydney Thunder, who like they're not a strong batting lineup. Like this is a great game to target for him. Again, pitch conditions notwithstanding, you have to say Steve Smith just because he comes back to the Big Bash and scores tons for fun. 210K, again, he's going to be out of reach for a lot of people. Not if you're me and you're stashing him on your bench like a legend, but it is what it is.
How'd he go for you last round at 200K, mate?
Yeah, look, and I think for number 3, moving well away from that one, I'm going to leave that one through the keeper. It's tough, but I really like Sean Abbott, and I think that Sean Abbott's at his absolute best when he does have the superstars around him. When Sean Abbott's the number 1 guy, we've seen at times that he can be hittable, but you look at the names that are complementing him this year. Like I think he's looked really good alongside an improved Jack Edwards, who's been bowling his knuckleballs during the surge and bowling exceptionally well. I think Sean Abbott's a really good number 3.
Maxie, we actually got a little signal from the gods, didn't we, yesterday? We were recording an NRL podcast, and we saw Sabah in the shout-out to the Australian Meat Emporium, some of the great meats in Australia, and we saw him in the car park, didn't we? So, I mean, we kind of nearly have to – I think we both already own him. We nearly need to captain him off the back of that. Yeah,
that's it. It's always nice to get those little sort of moments where you get that seed planted. So, it was good to see the big fella jump into his Tesla. Very, very changed man from the four-wheel drive ute days.
Yeah, real good-looking rooster, Sean Abbott, so shout out. Far out. The list of players that you can go with this week, it makes for a very exciting final round, I'll tell you that much. Thommo, what about yourself, mate? I notice even we look at roles. Maxie's kind of gone quality over role in that with the test players, but huge prices as well, which is going to be the major issue. Like there was not even a Sam Curran there who has one of the best roles in the game and is absolute class. How do you sort of rate them?
Yeah, I love it because the 3 he's mentioned, you can't dispute. But when I wrote my quick list down, those 3 don't even feature it. And one of it is price related. So I would go Curran, as mentioned earlier. I think he's, if we get on the field, most likely bat and bowl. And his price is pretty good. I'm looking at my side. I'd love to have quality like Starc and Smith, but I don't think I can get them in, and I'm assuming there'll be others out there that'll be similar. I like Davies. I just think bat and bowl, he'd have a chance of getting himself involved, and he's always good for some fielding points. And the last one, I think, a little turnaround in form is Benny Dorcius. And if it's rain affected, I can see a game where they promote him up during a power surge or if they need quick runs. And, last year he had those unbelievable performances with the bat. I don't think we've really seen it yet. So I kind of bank on that happening. So, 1 Curran, 2 Davies and 3 Dorcius for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I know Curran only got the 2 overs in that first game, but I love his role. I think especially when you take the price into consideration. If it was the same price as Steve Smith and Mitch Starc, then sure, I'd have them above him. But the reality is you've got 3 trades to play with this week. You're not going to be able to get everyone, and it is a really good role in that side. So I do like the current play there. Alrighty, boys. Let's move on. Top scoring player of the round. So only needs to be one, and we're not looking at double game week players. We've spoken about the Sixers. Looking outside of that, I'll start with you, Maxi. Who do you think is the highest scoring player to finish the Supercoach season?
It's an amazing question. And I think when you look at this round, so let's walk it through, right? Game 1, Sixers versus the Thunder. Thunder suck, Sixers good, but rain. So it's tough to pull a player out of that game. Let's go to Game 4, Brisbane Heat versus Sydney Sixers, Gabba, potential for rain. It's really tough to pull a name out of that. Otherwise, a guy like potentially Matt Renshaw, you'd throw up there, albeit a very, very good-looking bowling lineup from the Sydney Sixers. So that really only leaves 2 games, which is the Adelaide Strikers versus the Renegades on Adelaide Oval, or Perth Scorchers versus the Stars at Optus. Now, Optus has been a bit of a dog this season, so I'm reluctant to look there. So that draws me to the 2 game and 2 names, right? One of them's obvious, one's less obvious. First guy is Matty Short. I don't think the Renegades are the strongest bowling lineup. So back home on Adelaide Oval, chance to finish the season with some fireworks. I would back him in for a bit of a monster, a bit of a comeback game, a bit of a reminder as to why he's in the World Cup squad. And opposing him, big G-man, Gurinder Sandhu, one of the leading wicket takers in the competition this week. He might even be number 1. Now he's been having a good tussle with Harris Ralph. But G-man, he had a tough night the other night when the ball got wet and it was difficult to hold. And that can happen. But he is taking wickets for fun. He's bowling some really, really good death overs. He's taking a lot of poles. And I think that is a game to target. We've seen Seam be quite effective on Adelaide Oval this year. It hasn't quite been the absolute road. So I think he could be the leading point scorer for round 9.
Yeah, very, very nice there, mate. Thommo, who's on the top of your list?
Single week scoring players, I've got Cooper Conley as my best shout, I reckon. He's taken a wicket in each of his last 5 games, and he hasn't really put a score together with a bat. Big game against the Stars, pressure on. He performs when the pressure is on and when results are there. So if he can find a bit of form with the bat, just take his time, instead of swinging early. I can see Cooper putting on a big one, so he's my shout.
77% owned among the top 1% of ranked coaches. A little bit less than I thought. I assumed most would have held on to him, and he's a really good shout, as you said. He's getting wickets with the ball and being pretty good there, but the runs, he's been thereabouts, but there's a score coming. So I think he's a terrific shout, and yeah, just a few more sold than I anticipated. For myself, I think in terms of a smoky sort of thing for it, I've got another one first, but just while we're on that Scorchers game, Jai Richardson is one that I've always had a soft spot for. He'll be owned by next to no one, and one you could take a little late round flyer on and gets those good conditions over in Perth. It's one that we spoke about last show, Thommo, but one that hindsight's a great thing. I'm just kicking myself that I didn't, probably a bit too double game week focused, I think, and didn't twig to the role as quick as I should because I was so focused on those players with doubles coming up. But it's Matt Renshaw. And you mentioned him, Maxi, but his role's been awesome all tournament. He's bowling frequently. Not only is he bowling frequently, but he's taking wickets, and he's looked magnificent with the bat. And it's one of the ones where you just go, probably stuck in the old ways of Renshaw, getting the occasional over, but being more of a bat-only prospect. Be adding the fact that Deck is playing on up in Queensland at the Gabba, it's brilliant. So obviously there's that rain threat, so you might need to have a little bit of a contingency plan if the forecast worsens, but if it does start to clear up a little bit, that forecast for Sunday, I love Matt Renshaw this week, and I think he's a tremendous pick. All right.
Good shout, mate. I think just 2 other guys very quickly. I can't not mention them. Good form and very talented David Payne, who's just come back from being one of the leading wicket takers in the ILT 20. He's bowling death for the Scorchers. And Josh Inglis as well. This is a man who scored multiple hundreds in T20 internationals. A guy who I think he's getting rested from tonight's squad. And he should be back for that match, ready for finals. This kid can seriously play. So if you need a keeper, I'd be looking that way.
Very nice, mate. All righty, guys, coming into 2026, make sure you get your financial goals for the year sorted in style. If you're looking at getting into the housing market for the first time in 2026, get the journey started by booking in with the team at Mortgage Choice SCW. You might be making that leap into the investment market or saving cash by refinancing your current loans. Whatever it is you're after, Pat and the team at Mortgage Choice, Sutherland, Cronulla and Wollongong will get the year started on the right foot. Best of all, it's free of charge because you listen to this podcast. Simply mention SC Playbook when you get in touch. That'll get you a free consult worth $129. Even if it's back end of the season, you aren't into the NRL or the AFL Supercoach content and all of that, you can do it all year. It'll stand. Give them a buzz and they'll look after you there. So to do so, hit them up on Instagram, probably the easiest way. Very responsive there. Mortgage Choice _SCW, or you can buzz them on 02 9521 1611. Alrighty, boys. What did we learn from BBL 15? And I think we're all pretty disappointed with our years thus far. And, worst in a while. I'm sort of going okay. Thommo, you're going okay. Maxie, I'm very excited for your insights here. It has been a rare down year. But the beauty of this is you learn from it. You take from it. And what did I do wrong? What did I replace it with a few decent years, etc.? So, Maxie, I reckon you've got a bit on your chest that you want to get off. What did you learn from Supercoach BBL 15?
I think it's bizarre, and I know that we had the same conversation with NRL last year, this week, and I was very stubborn about sort of not learning too much, despite the obvious mistakes that I made. I think it really just shows you that you need to be forgiving with yourself in BBL Supercoach, because I feel like, with the exception of two very obvious mistakes, one, leaving the emergency on Jack Wildermuth, not bringing him on field in round 2 and therefore losing 200 points when I couldn't loop him. And the other night when I accidentally lost 165 points by stuffing up my VC loop on Ben Dorcius after finally getting that right. This is a game where we all know how to play it, right? Like, we know the science behind it. We know we want all-rounders. We know we want double game week players. We know we want death bowlers. We know batters are risky. But the success in this game really comes down to the 50-50 decisions you make, because what people might not realize is that there might be more than one all-rounder in each team. And there's definitely more than one death bowler in each team too. And sometimes there's 3. So I think you got to be forgiving. You can't get every decision right. It's just simply not possible. The other part is probably to be a little bit more discerning by choosing players from actually good teams. When we saw the Melbourne Stars come out at the start of the season, and they surprised us a little bit by only picking the 4 specialist bowlers, and then we saw Stoinis and Maxwell expected to be that 5th. I was really proud. In round 1, I pivoted my team and brought in Marcus Stoinis, and he's been a season-long hold. So that was a good pivot. Seeing how good that fast bowling triumvirate, I'm trying to look at the school teacher, Thommo, and see if that word or use is correct. He's shaking his head at me, so he doesn't know. But just seeing how good they were as a bowling unit and realizing that these guys had the potential to be arguably the best team in the competition, I could have gone earlier on them and avoided the Brisbane Heat, who at the time were very poor, with a lot of grade quicks because of injuries, and going to the team who was going to win more. They're going to take more wickets. They're going to score more runs. There's going to be more catches. There's just going to be more points from teams who are winning games rather than losing games.
Yeah.
I think just probably looking at that a little bit more than just the doubles and just the rolls, and pivoting a little bit quicker. So that's probably the big ones. Is one, to just be forgiving because you can't get it all the way right, and number 2, just look at the cricket a little bit more, because I think that there's probably a few things in the tea leaves that we gloss over a little bit by not looking at that hard enough.
Yeah, and in terms of your point around the teams that are good and the teams that are bad, obviously we're not oracles, but you can look at teams and go, this team should be good or this team probably will be a little bit poor, and you sit there and bowlers are so key to Supercoach success, and bowling all rounders, that sort of stuff. And if your players come out there and they score 110 and then you have to defend that as a bowler, you're not getting cheap wickets. You're not bowling at the death. You're probably not even getting your 4 overs in because it's run down early, and it makes life tough. But again, easier said than done. But to your point, it's just looking at these teams, who should go well, who shouldn't. Thommo, what did you take from this season's campaign?
Yeah, there's a couple of things when I was looking over my team across the year that really stood out for me. The first one is recognising an improved role or even just an uptick in form. And then you've got to back your gut instincts, whether that's Maxi from watching the cricket, but you just got to jump on. So Wildermuth to start the year, he hasn't been in that side for a number of years, but he's opening the batting, he's bowling overs. It gives you a great opportunity to score. And when you factor in his starting price, like that was an obvious pick that, I reckon most serious people should/will have. Sammy Harper, I mean, he's burned all of us personally year on year, but an in-game injury, he's opening the batting, he showed a bit of form. I didn't get him for their double, but when I think in hindsight, I'm like, well, why didn't I? I mean, that he had both of those boxes ticked, form and then improved role. When Zampa went out injured, Hassan Khan went from second spin bowler, bit spin bowler. He overtook the youngster, and then he's the one they're trusting. So he's got that immediate uptick. Joel Davies this year's gone from in out play when there's a few missing coming, but he's an integral part. Even a big dog like Stoinis, like he had those years where he was just batting and not really bowling, but like he's gone to practically the best Supercoach player. So it's finding those roles, whether it's early in the season, whether it's a mid-season, just jumping on. I guess the opposite also holds true. We saw like Maxie's been, had an absolutely outrageously poor season by his lofty standards, opening the bowling, but, they've got Swepson as their main spinner and floating in around the batting order. Timmy, your mate Berendorf, going from the Scorchers after all those years to the Renegades, so the opposite also holds true. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind. Another one I've seen personally, and, there's this myth or the illusion, or people have different stances on the debate about double week players. Are they worth it? Do you go the single week with a steady roll? But I think over a double week, if you get someone that goes big, I think that's why I haven't been able to move my rankings. And I'm not talking about the obvious picks, the big gun all-rounders, but over the course of the year, Renshaw in round 2 for the Heat wasn't someone that everyone jumped on, but if you got him, you get that sharp ranking rise.
Yeah.
Liam Scott from the Strikers double, Sammy Harper. Look, even I didn't get on Mitch March. Plenty did, but plenty also didn't because, you're going your Conleys, your Hardys, others. But if you get that person that goes big over a double, that just makes such a difference. And that's when, if you have a mediocre start, you can nail that for a couple of weeks, you can get that big rise. The last one, we say it every year, and one time we'll learn from it, but it's beware the international. So if I ask you fellas, I'm just looking quickly at the top 20 averaging players here. How many of the top 20 players do you reckon are international recruits?
I reckon one.
Yeah, well, Harris Ralph would be there. Overton would be top 20, but he's been pretty good. Yeah, but I'm going to throw one more in there who I don't know. 3?
Yeah. Out of the top 20, it's 4. Yeah, it's 4. But one of them, Shamsi, who hasn't been here.
Yeah.
David Payne hasn't been here. And the other 2 are Overton and Curran, and they're internationals, but they've been here for quite a few years and have experience. So even some of the players you mentioned, Ralph's not in there, Hassan Khan. So, just, be really aware of that international. And I suppose we've got some big names, like Rizwan and Baba that haven't performed. But for the most part, I'm going to go and revisit this and I'm going to go with the locals that know the conditions. We know it takes time to adapt. No matter of your quality, it takes time to adapt. So that's something I've got to, have the lens over my team when I put together next year.
Maxie?
I think just further on that point, Thommo, it's a really good one about the internationals. And I think that almost the opposite can be true for some of the Australian internationals when they come back in. Not getting Mitch Marsh, for example, when his form in the BBL and his price, it was like, this guy's terrible. He didn't look like hitting one off the square. But you just know, right? Like we've seen what Mitch Marsh has done even just in the last 12 months in the T20 international arena and in the IPL. And you can sort of just say, as I said at the start of the season, a big learning for me around him, David Warner, was like, this guy is too good for the Big Bash.
Yeah.
And David Warner did it again this year. He started slow. He was playing in the middle order. He looked rubbish. He looked old. He looked out of touch. I mean, the bloke's probably, he's not playing a ton of cricket anymore compared to what he used to, but he's too good for the Big Bash. He scored 130, and then he scored 6-7, and then he scored like another 80 or something like that before he was run out, at the Gabba. But this is a guy who is too good for the Big Bash. So I think you need to kind of also keep that at the top of your mind. sometimes like the best players, even if they look bad, they are the ones who can find that violent form swing. Matty Renshaw, classic example. He's had a great summer. We know he's been pushing for Australian consideration. He made the Australian white ball teams just prior to this tournament too. So his form with the bat shouldn't shock. The role change, yes, but the form shouldn't shock. So it's just sort of, it's something to keep in mind. You do need to kind of have an eye test with it, but yeah, a lot of these Aussies, like they're just so good. That's why I got on Steve Smith and why I advocate for Starc as well for this round.
Yep. Thommo, anything to add there or all good?
No, all good. Makes sense. You want quality players, so I can't knock that one iota.
Yeah, so David Warner, just touch on him one last time. Yeah, thanks for bringing up Davey again. Just throwing back to when I owned him for scores of 2, 7 and 10. Since then, he went 25, 175, 97, 107. So, yeah, no, wonderful stuff there from David Warner. Boys, just one that I want to touch on for myself, and it was a pretty clear one. I was a little bit too focused on pedigree rather than form, I think, and blokes who have been out and out guns for years, even like the last year that I stuck with on sort of like historical form rather than backing the eye test. It's what you blokes have already spoken about with your learnings as well, but players that are just out of touch, they're not seeing it well, they're not bowling well, whatever it might be. Players with pedigree whose roles haven't changed, they always deserve that extra round or 2 rounds, like a Glenn Maxwell, for example. But you need to know the time to cut where you just go, this bloke is not playing good cricket. And there was a few for me this year, Glenn Maxwell being one of them when I brought him in, and his role was kind of there, kind of not there. But we even saw last night, like when they had or the night before, a handful of runs to win, he didn't even come out. He was like 7 or 8 and just goes, no, I don't want to come out. Like that is so un-Glenn Maxwell-like. And there'd be reasons for it. And they had the game won. He's giving other people a chance. But this is a bloke who needs to get back into form because he's out of it heading into finals. And Maxwell I've just held on to. And the last few rounds, he's either been in my loop or just not played because he's so cheap. And I'm just like, I don't need to. But Mitch Owen's the other one. Only obviously a 1 season sample size, but I've just held for too long. I did sell him and buy him back for the double, but Mitch Owen, just a waste of time. And the reality is he's just not playing like he was last season. Jason Behrendorff, I absolutely love the bloke. But again, this one was clear cut. Not only has he only been bowling 3 overs every week, but he's just not bowling like he had been in Perth and where we've seen dominate for years. And I had an 7 round sample size to not buy him, but I did it anyway. So hopefully as you're listening to this on Friday and he's taken a 5-wicket haul and it's all redundant, but he's off to a bad start in the double. And it works on the flip side as well. You mentioned Sammy Harper, Thommo. I was lucky enough to get him for one of the doubles and he went okay, but he's never really been much Supercoach chop. And for that reason, I think we all probably avoided him early. He was just smoking them, playing terrific cricket. He had doubles to come and it was just like the money was there. So
negative break even 2.
Sorry?
He had a negative break even 2 coming into that round 3 double. Glenn Maxwell had like 170 break even. Like
keeping, getting catches, a few stumpings. So it works on the flip side. So that's probably my major take from Supercoach BBL15. Boys, trades and skippers for round 9 now. The fact that the Gades are the second of their second game of their double tonight, that'll change a few things. The fact that there's rain around the sixes. So I'll drop mine, but I will obviously update them on tomorrow's podcast when we have a bit more information. But Max, I'll start with you. What are you sort of looking at the moment, early days? We'll update them in the WhatsApp group to come.
Yeah, mate, it's so up in the air, which is making it difficult. I'm very keen to get rid of Will Sutherland. He's just been a bit of a bum this year, averaging 42. Role looks good, form not. Aside from that, like I'm running out of dudes to sell. Like I'm not going to have a huge amount of money to play with. I'm very likely to move on Peter Siddle, who'll be kind of roughly around that 120k mark as well. So yeah, look, I'd love to get Sam Curran just because of the role. But if I can't, I'm just going to be fishing in the single game week basket and trying to find some just silly pods, like really, really ridiculous, stupid ones that no one else has thought of. It might be a Josh Inglis who is going to be affordable, put him in a batter's slot and just sort of pray that something comes off. Or it might be potentially like a Chris Lynn. Like what's one more game for Linney? The bloke hasn't done anything all season. So like why not that he could be the guy to go off against the Melbourne Renegades, who are pretty poor at Adelaide Oval.
Fair play to you. Thommo, what are you looking at, mate?
Yeah, it's all up in the air. I would originally say sixes, but the more I look at the forecast in terms of trade-ins, I'd be looking elsewhere. I've got quite a few Adelaide and Renegades people left over, so I'd be looking at the other game on the Saturday, Scorchers and Stars. I was silly and sold Stoinis a couple of weeks ago to fund, I think it was a Jamie Overton or someone like that, so I'd love to rectify that mistake and bring him in. Even like a Tom Curran or someone like that, I sold as well when he was out injured, I believe. So bringing in a couple of stars all-rounders, because I'm looking at my side, the only stars all-rounder I've got is Maxwell, and that doesn't make me too impressed. So if there's rain around, a couple of stars will be coming in. In terms of trade-outs, I think Wildermuth has lost all bowling now, and he could be rained out, so he's one to go. Someone as well like Daniel Sams. It looks like we're not going to get much action on the first game. I trade him and go. So that's what I'm playing around at this stage. Someone like Lloyd Pope I'd like to get rid of, but in terms of just having playing numbers with the Hurricanes on the bye, Pope I'd love to trade out, but he might have to stay. Someone like Jake Fraser-McGurk. I think, Maxie, you're right. That Renegade strikers, there's nothing to play for. There could be a couple of changes. The shackles are off for both sides. I reckon that if you want to find someone a bit funky, that could be the game to go to because, pressure's off, people can go crazy, wickets and runs. That could be a good one to look for a couple of pods in. So, yeah, a lot to play out, but that's my kind of ponderings at this stage.
Yeah, good ponderings there, mate. There is a lot to play out, probably more than normal with this week, I do feel. So, as I said, we will update these trades in the SC Paper subscriber WhatsApp chat tomorrow. For myself, I'll know my trades this time tomorrow for you, but there's obvious ones. The Hurricanes being on the bye, so guys like Owen, Chris Jordan, he got injured as well, shock. Behrendorff, who's probably not going to be worth that much anyway. So it just depends of the big guns. I'm a bit like you, Tom. I don't mind the call of selling someone who's pretty highly owned, like Dan Sams, who does present a bit of value with a game that could get rained out. So you do that. People have him. They probably put him on the loop anyway, but there might be very little action. You can get a fair bit of cash out of him. So maybe like a Sam's out as well in that one as well to free that money up. I like Sam Curran. Unless the forecast is really bad going into the game tomorrow, I'll look to get him in. I like a single game weaker in the form of like a Michael Neeser maybe, or a Matt Renshaw will be the one that I want. If I've got the money to do it, I just fear I think he's about 177k that I might struggle cash-wise, but I'd love to get him in. And then the third trade will, if the weather's okay, it'll be a Sixers player. If it's not, it won't be. And I'll probably go to maybe someone like a Dry Richardson and look a little bit differently and look for a single game week pod. So, guys, we'll have the weather updates and that sort of stuff, or you can do it yourself and just go to the bomb and check out what the forecast looks like, what the radar's doing. But we'll try and make life a bit easier for you and get that post out tomorrow, etc. But anyway, that will do us for our trades skippers for the round. Again, a bit to play out. I keep saying that. Apologies. Maxie, what are you thinking?
If we can get a Sixers toss in before lockout and the Sixers will bowl first, I will VC Mitchell Starc, provided I can make the funds work, but I'm pretty confident that I can. And if I can't, it will definitely be VC Matt Short into a captaincy on Marcus Stoinis. And, we do need to keep a little bit of an eye on the Marcus Stoinis injury front, to know that he's still going to have the capability to bowl. He did come out and say last night that it was quite minor, but I want to know what hand it is. I want to know any impacts there. But I feel like I had a chat with someone in before the start of this round, and they were talking about VCing Chief, who's averaging 44 for the year. And I said, mate, he's playing like a busted. And they said, but he's so if you double his score, you double his average on 44, it's just in front of what Marcus Stoinis is doing on the year in single game weeks. And then Stoinis has come out and he's basically going to outscore him for the week unless Chief goes huge tonight, which against a good team in Perth, it's not that likely. So I think Stoinis is the best skipper option, just with his pretty much rusted on 4 overs, including death, and some really, really solid batting form.
Yeah, the big Stoin, definitely the safe option this week. Thommo, what are you looking at?
Yeah, VC Curran if there's any Sixers action. Presuming there's not, VC Matt Short and a C probably into Cooper Connolly. For those that are brave, Fraser McGurk went absolutely nuts in a game that meant, I think, nothing to the Renegades last year. Short square boundaries, Adelaide Oval. I'll loop him because I couldn't stick the VC on him. But if you're looking to be brave and he goes crazy, he's probably my one. I guess Max is a bit like your Chris Lynn shout, isn't it? Just someone, shackles are off, let's go swinging. But yeah, that's my early thoughts.
Yeah, nice, that's mate. It. My VC, again, pending toss, etc. Maybe a little Sean Abbott or Ben Dwarshuis. I don't mind. Actually, I'll probably go Sam Curran. Just want to have a look at exactly what that team looks like and if there's a threat that he might only get sort of the 2 overs. We'll see how the team list comes out, but I don't mind Sam Curran. If it does look like there's a threat of, batting sort of 5-6 and he bowls 2 overs, I'll probably go to the more safer of Dwarshuis or Sean Abbott over there. And in terms of captains, I like the Cooper Connolly shout, Thommo. I think you've taught me into him a little bit. I reckon there's a big score coming with the bat. I think he's due there, bowling his overs. So, yeah, I like the Cooper Connolly shout. It will be relatively popular, though. But as I said, 77% owned among top-ranked teams. So if half of them captain him, there's an opportunity nonetheless. Guys, that'll do us for the Supercoach BBL 15 campaign at SC Playbook, at least for our team podcast. As I said, I will be back with the solo podcast tomorrow. We are done. As always, it's been extremely fun. We've lost a few hairs, got a few new greys, but we'll do it all again next season. Thank you so much for the support from the SC Playbook community, especially the subscribers out there who have really helped the platform evolve year in, year out. There's heaps to come in 2026 with AFL incoming, with podcasts in studio, articles, all different sorts of things. The NRL is back in studio as well as of this week, with heaps more to come there. Thommo, thanks for the season, mate.
Thanks, Timmy. Thanks, subscribers. Thanks to everyone. I'll go into a 9-month hiatus and come back unless I go for a run in NRL. You've got my number.
Maxie, thank you once again. You've been huge all over the place, including the WhatsApp community, and I look forward to the BBL16 Vengeance Tour of M. Bryden.
Thanks, mate. It is coming. It's been great fun once again, even if I've been absolutely poor myself. Hopefully, at least some of the advice and opinions has helped the subscribers and the listeners out there. So thanks for having me back.
I dare say it has, mate. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. Solo pod. Good luck in the second Renegades game tonight for the double. Hope you can finish the season on a high. Cheers for tuning in.